This is Colton, and this is my PowerPoint on death and dying in America. I visited 3 cemeteries, one in Georgia West, one in Three Rivers, and one in Ray Point. The cemeteries I visited are located in Live Oak County and are within a 20-mile radius. The Georgia West Cemetery is where most of my father's side of the family is buried. I walked through the area and it seemed to be the biggest of all 3 that I visited. The number of interments I researched came out to 851. The area was well kept and groomed. Before I went to the cemetery, I was told that the cemetery had a history and that it was the middle of a huge controversy. I was also told to look at the names on the headstones on one end and on the opposite end as well. I came to find that the controversy was over a Hispanic soldier who was killed in World War II and according to his family was denied a wake in the chapel of then Rice Funeral Home. After walking through the cemetery, it became obvious that the cemetery seems to be segregated, as one side of the cemetery seems to be filled with Hispanic names on the headstone, and on the other side with what could be considered Caucasian names. As you reached the middle, you could see that there was a mix. I researched the words Three Rivers Cemetery controversy, and Felix Longoria was at the top of the list on Google, as was the story of the incident. I didn't find the headstone of one of the oldest as I walked, but after researching I did find out what may be one of the oldest that was reset when her husband died. The reason I chose Ray Point was because I was told that it was more of an extended family cemetery. The people buried there are almost all related, as almost all of the 75 visible headstones that were legible belonged to a majority of 6 family names. There were only a few names I did not recognize as town members of Ray Point or Three Rivers. The small cemetery was extremely well kept and groomed, with plenty of flowers on even the oldest headstones. The area was calm and peaceful, as it is out of the city limits and the traffic is minimal. It was a quiet resting place. Most common in loving memory of. Most were religious epitaphs, especially the older headstones. The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want, and blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. One of my favorites was laughed often, loved much. Until we meet again was used on many of the couple's headstones. An infant headstone read, Jesus called a little child unto him. My headstone will probably a black marble with white or silver writings and have a cross or religion icon that I would let my mother pick out. My epitaph would be simple and say, gone but not forgotten. This is how I would it to be. This is how I would want it to be, and how I know it would, as I know if my mother and father were to outlive me, they would never forget me. I would also hope to live this manner where years later people would still talk about me with a smile and a shake of their head as they tell their story about me. As I walked around, I noticed that some would leave flowers, jars of water, crosses, and even personal items on the gravesides. This showed different cultural characters and social groups, and all within the same county. The Amish simple burial and service, basic headstones and plain pine casket, gathering of friends and family for service, put in a hearse wagon and taken to burial site. The Orthodox Jewish, after death the body should not but unattended. There is a shomer who stays with the deceased from the time of death until the funeral and burial. Viewing the deceased is not a Jewish custom, and tradition teaches us that it is disrespectful to look at a person who cannot look back. Unless local laws require embalming, a chemical process of sanitation and temporary preservation should be avoided. Traditions called for a simple wooden casket made without metal parts. Most traditional funerals do not have unnecessary and frivolous adornment. Muslims believe that death is a departure from the life of this world but not the end of a person's existence. It is forbidden for those in the mourning to excessively wail, scream, or thrash about. Avoid the need for embalming or otherwise disturbing the body of the deceased. Only the men of the community accompany the body to the gravesite. Hindus believe in reincarnation and view death as the soul moving from one body to the next on its path to reach nirvana heaven. They cremate their dead, believing that the burning of a dead body signifies the release of the spirit and that the flames represent Brahma, the creator. If a woman is a widow, she will be dressed in white or pale colors. The body is decorated with sandalwood, flowers, and garlands. According to Chinese custom, an elder should never show respect to someone younger. A traditional Chinese coffin is rectangular with 3 humps. At the doorway to the house, a gong is placed to the left of the entrance if the deceased is a male, and to the right if female. The funeral ceremony traditionally lasts over 49 days. Chinese cemeteries are generally located on hillsides since this is thought to improve feng shui. After the funeral, all of the clothes worn by the mourners are burned to avoid bad luck associated with death. Atheists do not believe in any deity, so there is no specific reference to an afterlife. Both cremation and burial are common atheist funeral practices. Ancient Egyptian civilization was based on religion. Their belief in the rebirth after death became their driving force behind their funeral practices. Wealthier Egyptians began to bury their dead in stone tombs, and as a result, they made use of artificial mummifications which involved removing the internal organs, wrapping the body in linen, and burying it in a rectangular stone sarcophagus or wooden coffin. Wealthy Egyptians were buried with larger quantities of luxury items, but all burial, regardless of social status, included goods for the deceased. The Jews buried their dead quickly after death, usually on the same day. There were 2 reasons for such prompt action. First, dead bodies decompose quickly in the hot climate of the Middle East. Second, according to the thinking of time, leaving a body unburied for days shows dishonor to the deceased and his family. My family is my biggest social group. I rely on my parents to help me through, and I trust the decisions they make for me, and we have a great respect for each other. They have raised me to make my own decisions and allow me to make my own mistakes. That being said, they know me and what I will want at my funeral and services. I will say the way they raised me has allowed me to grow into a person who knows what they want, and I'm not afraid to tell them either. I have complete faith that they will abide by my requests. I know my dad and mom may not have the same type of services as I will, and I will abide by their requests as well.